Alright, we're back. So for anybody that was catching the Twitch stream, we're live both on Twitch and on YouTube right now. I'm going to bring up the YouTube myself so I can set that up. And tonight we're going to go through some Ravencoin. We're going to try a couple different setups and rigs and some configuration, but we're going to go through kind of the details of Raven from what I know and just the background that I have from the meeting out there in North America Bitcoin Conference, Bruce Fenton, and just the Raven team in general. Let me get this up here, copy, paste. I'm going to get the actual where did the white paper go? Let's get the white paper. Ravencoin.org white paper. So we're going to bring up the white paper. We're going to kind of take a look at it together. I'm going to put it in the description, that way we have it so you guys can see. Raven white paper. Make sure that's saved. And then we are going to bring that up so I know that this machine has start this installation of these 750 Ti's while we're looking at the run.
Do you not have sound since Lisa?
Huh? What's wrong with the sound?
Nothing.
Well, we'll bring it up on
Oh, he said you do.
what?
Sound is fine.
Yeah, no, we should be fine. I'm just mumbling right now as I'm setting up some stuff.
Well, then speak up.
Ravencoin white paper. So, for the folks that don't know what Ravencoin is, let me kind of go through it real quick. So, when we were out at North America Bitcoin Conference, there was a whole bunch of different presentations. One of them was Ravencoin. I've talked about this in a few streams ago. Some people had started looking at it, researching it, mining it. It's mostly just NVIDIA mining cards right now, or the NVIDIA graphics cards that can mine it right now, and CPUs. There is a bounty for the AMD side. It still has not been fulfilled. I know that there's supposedly some developers working on that for the bounty, but right now it's just NVIDIA cards. So if you are rocking AMD, you're still just going to be stuck right now with just purposing the CPU only for Raven to get you some coins going. But the team out there went through essentially why they did it, why they forked Bitcoin, they changed the underlying algorithm to a new algorithm type. That's what the white paper that we'll look at. It's ASIC resistant. It uses 16 different algorithms in a series, and you'll have a range from folks that look at, for the most hash rate or what's the best hash rate per card and all that. It's a little confusing with it because each algorithm that it swings through has a different set of hash rate associated to it because it's more complex or it's memory heavy, as it goes through it. So going through and seeing which GPUs are more effective than others has been interesting, to say the least, but I have some basic numbers that are straight and to the point to kind of give you an idea of what you should expect. Most of this being around stock settings on your GPUs. But from your, and one of them I wanted to test was the 750 Ti, which is some older cards, and just to see what they do on it. But we'll come back to this main screen and we'll bring this up together, what Raven is. So ravencoin.org is their main site. They have a binary release that takes you to their GitHub and how to get a wallet and all of that. So it's underneath here. And this is the actual full Ravencoin release, so you can sit there and see what's going on with that. You go into Windows, you need to download, if you're wanting to set up a wallet, you'll have to download each and all of these. So it says, you know, download a copy executables to the desired folder. So on each one of the executables, the ZXZs, you need to put all those in the same folder. So you click on one of them and you hit the download, and that's going to throw it all down here. And you have to do that for each one. They don't have all these set up to where this is very raw. This is the way, like, old school when we first started doing like Bitcoin, we'd have to do. So each one of these you have to go in there and you have to hit download. It's going to download the binaries, and what this is doing is getting you a local wallet for Raven. This runs the essentially a forked version of the QT product, which is the standard Bitcoin Core type of wallet. And you can come back here, hit back again. What you're looking for is to all of the executables. I think I just did that one. Yeah, TX I did. And then Raven download. And then once those are all in there, you're going to pull all of those into their own folder, because you don't want them just in your downloads. So let's see here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 executables. On any of these, you can hit show folder. And then what I would do in here is just new folder Ravencoin wallets. And I would highlight all those holding shift, drag them up to that. And then when you double click that and launch, this is a fresh copy of Windows, run anyway. And then this is going to come through and say, hey, we're going to go we're going to use up some storage because it's going to do this. So we're going to use the default data directory. The default is right there. It's actually telling you what the default. So this is where your chain data and your wallet.dat file are going to sit. Is under your users, whatever your username is, app data, which is usually a hidden folder in Windows, roaming, and then Raven. And then you can hit OK. And then that's going to launch this. You're going to put the exception for the firewall in there, hit yes. And then this is just going to sit there. It's going to take it a cool minute or so to download the blockchain status. It doesn't take a long amount of time. You can actually hide this while it's doing it, and it'll show that it's 7 weeks behind. That's how old this coin is 7 weeks since the so I mean, this is kind of still early adoption. This is still not on a exchange anywhere. So you're probably thinking, why in the hell would I want to mine something and spend dollars and cost and power on a currency that I can't even exchange on a legitimate exchange yet? And part of that is with any new currency, if they have not hooked up to an exchange yet, it's just part of that risk. Now, some of the currencies, before they launch, will get agreements with these exchanges, but this herein lies, I look at it kind of opposite. This herein lies, from my view, the kind of true nature of the open sourceness of Ravencoin, where they just haven't went. It was a fair start, so you had essentially just a launch of the Genesis block and people that could go and contribute hash power to mining. Obviously, you're going to have some people that are going to put a lot of mining power on it and try to, you know, get as much coin as they can. But it's a fair start setup. So they weren't holding a lot of their efforts around trying to get it onto an exchange. Essentially, it's when Raven gets to that point of, you know, social acceptance and people mining it and wanting to use it and add source code to the currency. And the features that are in that currency, if there is a demand for it, then the supply and that will get put up onto an exchange. So it's kind of doing it opposite than a lot of the currencies where they're just trying to get onto an exchange. They pay all this money up front to try to get this huge pump on their coin, and then it gets dumped and it goes away. Where this is really starting from that grassroots. This reminds me a lot of Feathercoin. Why is it letting this do this? It reminds me a lot like kind of Feathercoin when it first started. It was like the third currency. You had Bitcoin, Litecoin, Feathercoin, like in May of 13, May or 12. I can't remember. I think it was May of 13. Where you had it come out and it was very grassroots driven. There wasn't, you know, like what's the differentiator of it? you know, why is Feathercoin different? It was script at the time, like Litecoin. You could almost call it a fork of Litecoin type of thing, where it had just had its own, you know, its own script. Script was Feathercoin, and then Dogecoin came out as script. But it was very grassroots driven. The people that mined it, you know, saved it, stored it, and used it to exchange things. We actually used to accept Feathercoin for some of the purchases and stuff that we used to have back in the day, in 2013. So the point of it was a very grassroots thing. So it has that kind of look and feel to it. And I like they just had their first dev meeting that has been linked below in our description. And it was kind of like an open community meet and greet, kind of what is it? What's the purpose of it? What are we doing? And it was a very kind of genuine approach to the ecosystem. So it's had a lot of mass adoption with regards to, you know, the kind of hardcore miner groups, small folks that have been getting in and starting to mine it. So, you know, we've seen it again at North American Bitcoin Conference. So that's why we, you know, it just had that kind of remind me of the nostalgic feel of the way what this stuff was like in 2013. So it kind of gives those folks that are new into it that kind of 2013 feel to it. So, and I'm not saying put your whole farm on it. I'm just, you know, it's just an opportunity to get some, you know, it's 5,000 coins per block. It's essentially a 1000x modifier on the Bitcoin. So where it's 21 billion versus 21 million total potential coins, which is the same as, there's a few coins that are like that, 21 billion. ETN, I think, is 21 billion total coins. So if you're looking at target pricing, if you're looking at the same kind of thing, ETN, which is the Electronium, has the same amount of output, total coins. The distribution model is different, though, so it's not going to be like for like, but if you're looking at like target prices and stuff, ETN, some people kind of match it to Doge, but the prices that I've seen people doing escrow trading, it's been double, 2 to 3 times that. 150 Satoshis, 125 Satoshis, somewhere around there right now. So once you have a wallet, this wallet here, since it's not on an exchange, and as it's downloading the chain data here, you can get your wallet address pretty quickly just by going in and doing a receive address, and you can hit a new, and you could just say mining, which is going to generate an address based on your private key. And on this one, if I go in here and just, you know, I hit edit, I can see the address now that this is. And if I go to copy address, now that puts it in my actual clipboard. So if I go to Notepad, I can see what that address is. So this is the address that I could use to mine with, and then that would go to this wallet. So even though it's not the chain data, it isn't synced yet. And I don't know. Take a gauge real quick. How many people understand what's going on here? And do they want me to explain what happens on like a core wallet? Maybe that might help or not. I don't know if it's going too deep for them or not, but. Essentially, when you have a core wallet, you are downloading a copy of the chain data. You're all of the data that you could take to validate the activity on the network. You're getting all that chain data, and on a core wallet, you're getting essentially a seed address, a seed private key that you can have multiple different public addresses with different labels and stuff too. So this is a localized address. What's up?
Just scoot over so you're centered in the spot that's located.
This way. Okay. So that's having a local, but that wallet that's on your computer. One of the very first tasks that you'll want to usually end up doing is you're going to want to encrypt your wallet and put a passcode and a password on there. That way, if somebody was to compromise your PC, if you're doing this on your home PC, one of the first places somebody looks for, if they're looking for Bitcoin or any kind of derivative type of coin addresses, they're going to go right into, once your machine's compromised, they're going to do essentially a search for a DAT file and look for wallet.dats, but they're going to go into the users, and they're going to go into the different users folders. And if you go under here, let me go back to this screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. And let me go into display. I'm going to set this to 150. where this thing ends up storing this wallet address is, let me minimize that, agree to that, do an install. So what they're going to do is, if the machine's compromised, the reason why you want to encrypt these wallets under settings encrypt is because that file that stores all that information with your wallet data is under your user, your miner. You have to go into the view here and go into options under view and then show hidden files and folders. And if you hit apply there, that'll give you these gray folders now, which is one of them is app data, and then roaming, and then Raven. And then in here, you have this file right here, is your wallet.dat file. So you can see the path up here is where that's located. If that's unencrypted, somebody else could download the Raven chain. They would have this same setup on their folder, and they would highlight their file. Once they close the Raven thing, they would delete that wallet.dat file, and then they would copy yours into it. And then when they open up that Raven core wallet, and this is not just Raven, this is Bitcoin, this is Litecoin, this is the way if you have a core wallet it works. You essentially paste that DAT file in there, and when you reopen up that file, they're connected to your wallet immediately. So if it's not encrypted, then they have immediate access to your funds. So you absolutely, on any core wallet, want to go in there and you want to encrypt that wallet and give it a pretty detailed passcode. That's it's usually eight or more. And then once you have that kind of set up, I'm making just a real simple one, and I'll delete that and hit OK. And this is where it's encrypted. Once you lose that message is no joke. You forget that password, you're SOL. Because anytime you interact with that wallet, especially on a send and receive, it's going to it will actually prompt you for that information. So now it's just done that. It's going to say, hey, I'm closing it. It's going to encrypt that wallet. Now we know that it was still downloading the chain data. It's fine. So it's going to go through. And now that you just see it kind of go through that part right there, and it just re-encrypted that wallet. And it will come up here in a second. Installing the graphics drivers right now. And we're going to relaunch Raven, which is under the downloads Ravencoin right now. So this QT, we just double click that. It's going to go back to where its index was. It was only 8% done, about 30 minutes left. So now that wallet's encrypted. So if I was to do anything with that it will prompt me for that passcode. So a person still would be able to see your funds in there because it doesn't encrypt essentially the front end. It just encrypts the interactivity with that wallet. So the front end is the front end. It's just read-only on that file data. It's doing a watch, essentially, is the command on it. And it's watching the status of that wallet. And you're probably thinking, well, hell, if I encrypt it, I don't even want them getting into this point. But this is no different than if they were out on the Blockchain Explorer and they were looking at your wallet. So essentially, this front end is just going out there and saying, hey, what's this wallet public address have in it? And it's displaying that, or this series of public addresses. And it correlates that back and gives you an available balance. But like the online versions, if you went to go to interact with it and move it, you would have that problem. You'd have that prompt to say, please enter your passcode. So that's what you want to have happen. So I just wanted to make sure this wasn't necessarily about Raven, it was about any of the core wallets, but I don't think it's talked about enough for people to understand to have at least that's some level of OPSEC, your operational security locally, to ensure that you have your wallets encrypted. And don't forget that password. There's no take-back skis on that. You're SOL if you lose that. And so that's where the penalty for failure in crypto space still kind of sucks, because the penalty for failure is you lose your stuff. And if you have a lot of money in there, that sucks. So looks like this is done. We're going to hit restart later because we're waiting for this to get finished. And while we're doing that, I'm going to make sure I copy over the current Ravencoin mining binaries, and I'll show you guys how to get those too. And there's a couple links that we'll put down in the description of some other YouTubers that have done videos, especially one did one for Awesome Miner for the Raven community, and it was really good. I watched that. I want to make sure I link their stuff to it. So while that's still going through, we're gonna have to reboot that. I'm gonna come over with the screen here real quick. We're gonna switch over to this one, and we're gonna go through the white paper for a second, real quick, and give you guys kind of a background of how this thing works. If I can get the, there we go. So this is the x16r. It's the algorithm that's there, and we'll go through this pretty quick. Just to kind of give you guys the top level overview of it. Essentially, you know, they give you kind of a background of cryptocurrencies, kind of why ASIC resistance is important. This is the main part that I wanted to show. Let's zoom in here. And this is essentially the series of the way it goes through. So they're telling you exactly how this algorithm works right here. So they're saying that the x16 algorithm hashes consists of 16 hashing algorithms operating in a chain fashion, with ordering the dependent on the last 8 bytes of the hash of the previous block. So it essentially goes through this activity of Blake through all of these different algorithms here. So these are the 16 that it goes through, and then it goes through and determines the next algorithm to use based on the final 8-bit output. So it's not, from my understanding there, it's not absolutely consistent where it's a serialized thing where it's going to go from one algorithm to the other. It's going to jump around, and it's going to show you essentially the different hash times of the impact and how long stuff takes based on the algorithm. That's why you'll see when we start reviewing this here in a minute, you're going to see the hash rates jump kind of all over the place, and as it's going through these different algorithms, you have this different impact on the actual GPU and you will see that also in the power impact of it too. And this is where they're saying that the concepts behind x16r could be extended to include script, equal hash, and others, meaning they can add, you know, script or equal hash or any of these other ASIC resistant coins. And script is an ASIC resistance. I don't know why they put that in the white paper, but the equal hash is right now because it's very memory hard, and they could add more, and that was kind of the point, to combat the actual ASICs. So let's go back to this. I'm going to try to bring up the we'll bring up the first mining rig on that. We're going to test this with a couple different mining rigs tonight. I'm going to show you guys kind of the performance, what to expect out of different types of hardware. Alright, so that thing's all the way updated. And that was essentially it. So that's how fast the, because it's only 7 weeks old, that's how quick it synced that chain data. So then if you ended up having, so if I go into my receiving address, is right there is my mining address, that if I wanted to start mining to that address, I could. That's what you'd put in your miner software. Or if you're running, you know, this 2.2.5, this is under the mining software that's for Ravencoin. I believe they have that under here, development testing. We should have the link here. Where is it's Ravencoin 2.2.5R. So 18 days ago, this one we'll make sure we put on there with the minor releases of which one to use. Let's put that we'll put that link on here. It's this link here with all the miners and the binaries for this, but that's essentially the binary that I'm using. You can see the GitHub address, and we'll put that in the description below. But essentially when you get that in there, I'm using Supernova, so you can edit this and you can see very simple settings here. Now you can change intensity levels with this, with like an I, and then you can say 21 and set your different intensity levels. You can also use, I believe it's DI and then O1, you know, comma 1. The different, distinguish the different GPUs.
Hey, he said if you post your Raven wallet in the Twitch chat, he'll send you one.
Send me a what?
A Raven coin.
Oh, I have. That's the different address. That's the wrong address I have in there. I would have to find which one I'm on. Well, I'll add it to the donation thing for Ravencoin. On the bottom of the video, we'll add that tonight to it. So I'll have Miss BT make sure she can hook me up with that. Oh, we need to reboot this. No, the reboot this because I just installed the drivers. I got 2 of the cards plugged in. And then I'm going to go to the 4. A couple of these I don't know if they work. I mean, these cards are old. I had these in 2013 or no, 2014, March of 2014. We'll let this come up. We're going to try the 750 Ti's first, and then we're going to move on to like 1070s. Bring up the chat so I can see that. Can we mine it with Simple Mining OS? No, I don't believe they've added that miner yet to it. You can with like Awesome Miner. There's a few tutorials on how to add it to Awesome Miner and a few of the other mining. You have to have the ability to add essentially this to the miner.
Do we have a 1060 laying around to test these?
I do. Well, we can test a 1060 too. So here is 2 in 19 intensity, which is the default, 750 Ti's. Wow, that's actually really good. It's almost 4 mega hash. Using 30 watts or so. Let's see here. So we're here. I'm going to close this real quick, and then I'm going to come back to it because I want to see what the base wattage is on this. So let's do a base wattage right now. So not that one. We're at 46 watts. Idle. And we go to 145 right now. And then this is going to change. It depends on the algorithm that's running. Yeah, RVN is not on any exchanges just yet. But there is escrow services that people are using. They do have a community Discord that has a market channel in there, and they show how to do escrow services with it. The motherboard that we're working with is the Asus Prime. Let's see here, Asus Prime Z270AR. And we have in here an i3-6100. We have 4 gigs of memory. We're using 1.7 gigs right now with this running. So right now we can see it's using 138 to 140 watts of power. It's now adjusted the difficulty. So let's see what this thing can run at now. We're using about 31 watts a card. and the rest is getting pulled from the GPU. So we're at 150 to 140. So we're using about, these cards are using about 50 watts between it. The card's using about 33, the riser's using some, so about 4 mega hash right now. Are there any exchanges that have shown interest? Most of the exchanges want you to pay them these days, and they want a lot of money. With all those, David, on some other rigs, I've seen it smash. On rigs that have like 8 cards, I've seen it do a pretty heavy intensity on the actual cores. Like if you only had 2 cores and you have 8 cards, that it was pretty intensive on there, because it does do some offset to the actual core, the actual CPU. So you'll see on the algorithms that the GPUs are not optimized for, what you're going to see here, and we'll leave this up. That's a good point that you brought up here. Is some of these it'll say partially using the CPU. Yeah, no overclocking too. So what I've done a pretty extensive test on the overclocking, and bottom line, it's not stable. Like even a little bit. Like I've done micro overclocks on like a 1070 Ti, and I've tried to and especially when you mess with the power setting on it, it runs for a little bit, but then there's some algorithms that it goes to use and it just crashes the GPU pretty hard. I mean, you can do a relatively small overclock on some of them, but I'm actually pretty impressed by these 750s. Now you can see here where it's given some work. It's this one 750 right here is on one algorithm. This one's definitely on another one, because you can see the differences here, because these are essentially the same GPU, but one's working one algorithm, one's working another, because one's getting 1.6 mega hash. But I mean, I'm actually pretty impressed with these 750 Ti's and what their output is. It's actually pretty good.
Raven's killed some power supplies?
I haven't had any power supplies issues. It actually is not running hard on the power supplies compared to some other. A couple of the algorithms run pretty hard on it, but most of the algorithms don't run that hard on them. If it was killing a power supply, then that means you were probably already at your power supply's max, and the variation of the load was probably impacting it, because sometimes if you have a constant load on a power supply, let's say you have an 850 and you're running 700 watts on it all the time, that's pretty consistent. But if it's going from 750 down to 400, back up to 750 as it's swinging up and down a lot, that's putting a pretty interesting load bearing, on it. And if it was a 750 or an 850 we're talking about, and you were running 950 sometimes, and then it's swinging back down to 600 and then back to 950, you could have some stability issues with the power supply. So what I was doing here is I was letting it run for a little bit, because you can see it swing through some of these algorithms, and you can see it was running 1.8 on both GPUs, now 2.2. Now we're getting into an algorithm that's a little easier for it, and we're pushing almost 4 mega hash. Right here, we're about to bust over to it as it's getting into the next algorithm. And right there's 4. So you can see this is what I'm talking about on the change. And we're going to see this with the 1070s when I plug in the 1070s here in a second. Where I just wanted to see what the 750 Ti's were doing. And now the 750 Ti is pushing up to 4 mega hash. Be careful, some are reflashing lesser GPUs and selling them as 750 Ti's. Now I can see that we got these boost shares happen. That's if a block has been found and it's dumping out your work. So right there, people ask me sometimes, like, this So this right here, R16 block 91287, that was a kind of a checksum because the block was found. You were working on part of that work for that previously found block, and it dumps it out. It's just, hey, I don't need that anymore. Here's some new work. So now as we're working through here, it's holding about 4. So we've let this run for a little bit. What I was trying to do is let it run enough to where it was going to offset some of it over to a CPU, but it's not on this. So this, the GPUs are handling it fine. But the 750s are interesting. So if I get these other two 750s working, this is going to be about an 8 mega hash rig, which isn't too shabby. That makes it about 4 of these equal to essentially a 1070. Because a 1070 does about 7 to 8 mega hash, and then swings up to 11 on some of the nicer algorithms. So that gets you a basic. We'll write that one down. You want to write on that about 2200 or 2.2 mega hash for a 750 Ti to 2.6 mega hash on Raven, and I'll put that in the description for people. Yeah, for the 750, and we peaked at 150 watts for 2. All right, so I'm gonna power that guy down. We're gonna move this rig. Let's go back to the big screen here. So I'm going to pull this rig down, and we're going to move over the other 7. Huh? I did. I just didn't switch an update. I'm going to pull this rig down. Throw that there. And we're going to shut this one down over here. I'm going to pull it over here. This is a 750 or 1070 rig rather.
Is that a wooden keyboard?
It is a wooden keyboard. Now this one.
And the mouse. We need help.
The box is in the way. This is a, we'll kind of go through what this rig is here. Woo! This camera's getting owned. No, this is that really thick. This has got a 1600 T2 in it, graphics card, and the wire is super taut. So trying to keep the.
You need that bigger desk.
Yes, I need the bigger desk and the. Trying to get to where we can see the power on these. That should be able to see. There we go. Mid. Yeah, I need a backlit one. Didn't somebody link me a backlit one? I will buy a backlit one if I see it. So I need this. And we're going to hook up this. So this is a 1070 rig with the same motherboard. It's an Asus Prime Z270. I think this has got a 7100 in it processor, i3. Let's get this here. And these are MSI Gaming X 1070s. Should come up here. How many gigs on the 750s were 2? There were 2 gig 750s.
Joe on Twitch says he has a backlit kilowatt, but the backlight doesn't stay on. You have to tap it every time.
Oh, really? That sucks. This.
Oh, sorry.
So, the settings on this machine, all stock settings. Here's your, it's 4 gigs of RAM, i3 7100 CPU, and GeForce 1070s. It's got the latest drivers right now installed. Same setup as the other. And when I was doing testing, I was doing like 4 at a time here. So when you can set up here, I did a DI. It's actually a D. So if you do D and then space 0, 1, 2, 1 and 2, that would actually do 3 cards. Oh, I got 4 there. Let's do 3 cards here. And that gives you guys that. And then here we go for a 1070 rig, a 6 card 1070 with the intensity. And on the easy algorithms, it's going to do 70, which is about 11, 12 mega hash per card. Again, these are stock settings. We'll let it get through its initial setting and we'll see where this thing settles down to. Again, this should have been about 40, 50 watts idle, and right now it's getting about 1050 on the power. Can you mine with the 12 GPU rig? So I don't have a 12 GPU rig here, but when I had the 1060 12 card rig here, I had to split it into 2 6-card sessions using that same setup that I had in there. I had to do 2 of these where I had one doing this, and then I'd have this with like 3, 4, and 5. So on the one I'd have this, and then on the other one I would have 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I had an A and B. So an A and B here. And then you have 2 different batch files like that, then you can run them the same. And these are the GTX 1070 Twin Frozer Gaming X 8 gig cards, non-TIs. These are not the TIs. So you could see that it was doing 70-ish, 70-ish. And each card right here, you can see what algorithms are kind of working. That's the one thing I'd ask for the miners, the people that are working on the miners. I would like to see an update, and I sent this to a few of them. I want to know which algorithm it's working on. So like when it's giving me this, I think that would be good for the intel of what, like GPU 1 right now is getting 11.14 mega hash. GPU 4 is getting 10.81. Now there's a good chance that there might be a little bit of variance between the GPUs, but I don't think that much. It's really that they're working on different algorithms. And you can see that right now, whatever it's working on, it's pretty heavy because it's using about 1,300 watts. Now that's a lot for some 1070s. That's a ton of power usage, right? Compared to what a, this mining like Equihash or Ethereum, where you're going to, on 6 of these, you'll be using 800 watts, 750, right? Half the wattage right now. So this algorithm does swing through it, and right now I'm at 100 power limit. And you can see right now it's running the 1,300.
Did you crack that screen?
Huh?
Did it blow up?
No, I don't think so.
How do you mess up? Is there plastic film on it?
Oh no, I totally cracked the screen. I drop things a lot. So it's definitely uses, it's a heavy load, and that's where if some people are saying that they've lost their power supply because of this machine. If you were building your rig around, Equihash or Dagger Hashimo like Ethereum, and you were targeting like 1,000 watt power supply for this kind of setup right now, you would be crushing that 1,000 watt power supply. Now I always plan kind of for the future. If you guys ever wonder like why I have like 1,600 watt power supplies and stuff, is because I don't know what the requirements are going to be, and I like having the headroom because I don't want to be running a power supply always at 100%. So this already had a 1,600 T2 in it, so more than enough. And additionally, as you can see on this rig here, this spot right here is open. So this was really because with the 1,600 T2 and with an M2 adapter on this Z270, I could have put a 7th card here. It just, when I got these, you just couldn't get cards anymore. Like I had to piecemeal these together, and luckily got all the same card. They're all Samsung. I think these are all Samsung. We'll check and see.
How much hash did you get out of 2 of them?
Out of 2
1080s.
1080s. These are 1070s. We have some 1080s over here, and we'll test some 1080s next. I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 1080s. I got one of these in this box over here because I was going to do some testing with it, but I wanted to we have the whole rig here, so we'll do the 1080s here next. But let's see here, GPU, that's the HD built-in graphics. Let's do this.
Joe on Twitch says that he has a home energy monitor, like Sense, that can tell you all the electric that's being used in the house.
Oh yeah, those are nice. Yeah, you can have different outlets and stuff that plug into your main box and have a lot of that cool. Oh, so these are Micron. So these ones are the Micron 1070s. These are my Samsung ones. So yeah, about 68 right now is what this is. I've seen this go down as low as about 55, something like that. We're still at 1,320 on the GPU right now. They're using 203 watts per card right now, which is a lot for this. Now, you'll see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to come here and try to drop some power, limit the power on these, and I'm betting that it's going to crash this miner. It's just not been stable running. So you're going to use, and right, like, okay, so now we're on an algorithm. Let's see here. The algorithm we're on right now, if we come back over here, there we are. So we're at 970 watts. So that's what I'm talking about, where this goes through those 16 different algorithms. When it gets to one that's not a heavy load, it actually will use less power because it's a more intense, and it doesn't need to run the card as hard because it actually has to throttle itself to sit there and get through the algorithm. So it's not using as much power on that. And what we're going to do is come in here, and you'll see that I've seen this go as low as like 650 watts on this and then swing back up to 1,300. So let's do 70% power limit. Let's change this to this. I'm not going to touch the overclocks on it. And now we've starved it from power. Which is now going to hold the 975. We got the 70% power limit in there right now. And we're still running about 966 with the 70%, but we're still working on that easy algorithm. The big question is, will it hold? If it'll stay stable, and my testing in this is that it doesn't stay stable. Is that it'll sit there and run for a little bit, and then I'll go look at it like an hour later, and it'll actually come back and say, sorry, you know, it's crashed. You can see now that we're using 144 watts per card from the probe that's on it right now. But like I said, you guys can, you know, attempt your own shot with it on actually let's see here, this is a P test state 0. I had a setting in here to make sure that it was using the that it could use the CPU too. See if it's working on hard. So 950. But when it actually swings back up to that higher algorithm to where it needs the and this is why I really like to have the miners actually show the algorithm they're working on, is when it actually swings back up to that more intensive algorithm, that's when it crashes. It gets to that point and it's like, hey, I need, oh my god, you've starved me of juice, and then it crashes the miner. It doesn't know how to react to it. Right now, each of the cards are getting about 6,500. Rack City HD with a super chat coming in. 2 EVGA Zcash. What's the best overclocks on them? Zcash, you want to go on plus 100 at least on the core. You can keep the memory you can keep the memory lower. If it looks like it impacts your card, put the memory at about 250 and set your power limits on those to about 75 to 80. And then let it go, and incrementally take your core up. Core on Zcash is really where it's prevalent. And I'm assuming it's an EVGA 1060, 1070. But so right now it's staying pretty stable at 145 watts. But I've tested this over a period of time, and it just crashes if it doesn't have all the juice. But I'd say test it. If you guys download this and you try it, test your settings, post the settings that you guys have, and let us know. I mean, I would be interested to see if it's specific to GPUs, if it's the drivers that you're using. As you can see it now starting to swing through a different algorithm. You see this, it was running about 6 mega hash per card, and now it's up to 8 because it's working on a different algorithm. Let's look at our power usage. We're back up over 1,000 here. So it's now that it's adding, it's going into that other algorithm. We're pushing back over 1,000 watts, and that is even with the 70% power limit. So still, yeah, pretty intensive, but that gives you guys an idea about 60 to 70 mega hash on a 1070 rig, 6-card 1070 rig. You know, and then that, you know, they'll give you guys an idea on what these all do on you know, something like go Zcash. You know, we're at 1,055 power-wise, or 1,050.
Why don't you use the latest NVIDIA drivers with the 390.77?
Well, this one should have a pretty newer one on here. There's no reason why I don't. On this build, 390.65 is what I'm using on this one. So we're right there at almost, this 6-card rig's almost 3,000 hashes for Zcash.
Cash is trying to mine Supernova. You work with that?
Yep.
They're getting a stratum authentication error. Does it take a while to process their account?
No, it should be instant. So that means just your syntax is off on your settings. Make sure you're...
They answered it in chat saying he probably needs to make a worker.
Yeah, you need to make a worker if you haven't made a worker. Add worker, make sure your worker name looks like this. If you go in there and you look at your Supernova and then you have your worker, you have your just your login name. If you guys go out to supernova.cc, this BBT test is me. And then I got that worker name, supernova.cc Raven. Let's go in here, and if you go into like statistics, pools, let's see here, around donors, donators, right there, top one, boys, top one. Donating BBT test 2.3%. I've given back to Supernova, which they probably don't need, but 5,519 Raven coins. The top donator. BBT hooking them up. I'm gonna switch over to some other pools and give them some love. But that is the 1070 rig. So I'm going to shut this boy down and we will probably clear this table, and I'm going to leave this one over here because this is a beast. It will not fit on this table. Let's go back over to the big screen. So this is going to be right here. Unplug this beast. Anybody wanting to... Here, I'll give you guys a close-up of this one. Quick.
And this trick sent us this picture. He says you need something like this on the side. Put your gigawatt, megawatt tester.
Kilowatt?
Kilowatt, whatever.
Gigawatt. Margarita. EVGA. Z270. It's super dirty. I need to clean this one. It's got the black paint, black and red, matching the things there, and then power supply 1600 T2. So yeah, the big beast 1600 T2s in this. Eventually I'll add another 1070 to complete this rig.
So while you're resetting things up here, what are the criteria you look into before you start mining a coin? What makes it valid for you and worth your time?
It's a great question. So it is a commitment on what they're trying to accomplish with why they built a coin or forked a coin. If they're going to be trying to improve some kind of feature set, if there's development support, meaning there's people that are committed, that have names, that have been at meetings and show passion for it. And you know, on big open source projects, especially like this, like Raven, it's just not those core developers that are working it. It's the contribution from the community. So the community response is part of it. I know I help in part of that, of educating people that there's a coin out there, and I have a voice that projects to at least 230 people tonight, and then whatever we have on Twitch. But that shows that there's a community, that they're meeting up, and that they're trying to do something with it. They're seeing what it will become. That kind of commitment of just not just wasting time, but trying to build something better. to whatever that manifests. Getting the coin off the ground without a hitch shows at least engineering prowess. I mean, anybody can kind of spin a coin up, but to get, you know, development on the miners and to get other development from other people and donated time for that is kind of valid. And then when you see like their meetup and you just hear the tone from them and they're being genuine with what their intentions are and they're not worried about throwing it onto an exchange and those kind of things, which means it's not about the money in the beginning. I like that sense of what the coin could become, and getting in and getting it mining and trying to identify the kind of dorkiness. I mean, we're not putting the whole farm on it, right? We're putting 1 or 2 rigs on it and we're hedging on it, you know, because maybe at some point it manifest into something that's going to be another store of value or make it easier to be transacted and have a good development community with it. So I like that with Ubik because there's a pretty decent development community behind it. They're putting out reports. They're trying to solicit more coins to join their network through the ERC20 style, just like GeoCoin and stuff did. That's why I chose Ubik as a good platform, at least from an Ethereum-based platform. And then for Raven being, you know, a grassroots community kind of setup, I like that kind of setup too. You know, on the ICO kind of world or other platform stuff, that's why I like EOS. EOS having it has a test net. It's having DApp development being done, and I like that from a concept of, you know, it's not a mineable coin, but there's nothing stopping somebody from building a DApp on EOS that leverages mining computers for other things, like the distributed computing models, like the proof of effort stuff that I've been talking about. If you have EOS as a platform that can send out jobs to mining equipment to then run them like a AWS Tesla farm to where you're doing distributed computing, then that leverages our miners different. So coins like that have passion, development, are communicating with people. It doesn't take you far to see the community and what's been going on. They have an active Discord community, that kind of stuff. So you don't have huge communities behind some of the coins that are just kind of like have 1 or 2 guys working on it. There's a few people making posts about it. But there's not a huge Discord community behind it. There's not, you know, people mining it and stuff. So I mean, it's kind of a long answer to say how we kind of go through it, but that's what kind of got me around Raven. And I like those you don't have too many of those Genesis block, let's just fire up something and everybody you know, has a chance. Lately you've had all these people that just spin up coins and have a pre-mine, right? It's like, hey, how can I get on the pre-mine and all that kind of crap. I like the fact that you can launch a coin and then it's just, here's the day that it starts and here's the basic compiled CPU miners. And because they forked it from Bitcoin, the basic out-of-the-box CPU miners by and large were, once there was a few updates to understand the different algorithms, you could just CPU mine it on day one. And I like that kind of delivery. How am I going to get power to this? Let me think here. I'm going to need to take... So the rig that I'm messing with here is one of the big boys. You guys remember this one? This used to have the Devil 13s. You guys remember that guy? So here's the GeForce Classifieds 1080s.
See all the dust.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. So yeah, this rig is here to get cleaned up. It's pretty dirty. Got pretty dusty. And this actually is, these 1080s are being powered by an AX 1500, the AX 1500i from Corsair. We're going to plug this guy in. And we're going to we're only gonna have 5. I want to get 6 because I want to see. Actually, what 6 cards? We'll do 5, and we can just do the math because I don't want to keep it going. We got power. We got. I need the memory. Here's the little. Here it is. It's for the keyboard and mouse. Those ones light up nice and pretty. Yeah, you can see how dirty they are. Oh, fancy that. I need to put the drive in there.
You've talked about Burstcoin before, haven't you?
No, I really haven't covered Burst.
But you talked about it before. They now have a community dev team after they ditched the original scammers.
They have a community dev team that. I haven't really followed it. I mean, so I went to plot some drives at one point, and that was around the time that there was a hard fork and it jacked everything up, and I was like, yeah, no thanks. So I mean, if it's matured and it's got a community development behind it, trying to improve it, then I might take another visit at it. I saw Linus somebody made a post with Linus. Possibly going to do a video on it. And he was plotting some hard drives, which is kind of funny to me.
Would it ever be beneficial to turn off the lights in the GPUs?
If you want to try to save the...
I mean,
You're not going to save much electricity. You're using about 1.2 watts per GPU. To 2 watts per GPU, so I guess if you have 8 watts, you might save yourself 10 watts if you turn everything off.
Can you mine with a Raspberry Pi?
Technically, you can mine with about damn near everything if you have a miner set up for it. Anything that can compute.
Is it worth it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's relatively speaking. I mean, so if it puts out over a course of a year 0.001 ETH, was it worth it? Yeah. No. Up. This is getting this ready. We're going to try some 1070s, or 1080s. So the 1070s, did you write down the...
No.
78 max, 65
Wait,
min.
270 what?
1070s were 78 max, 78 mega hash max MN, and then 65 minimum for 6 of them. I have an R9 390 I want to throw at this, but it spams me saying no CUDA support. Yeah, unfortunately no AMD miner. I really hope they put one out here soon. I think there's some opportunity there.
What does changing the intensity actually do to your mining progress or workload?
It actually has a chance to increase your hash power because you're actually telling it to work harder. I saw on the first few releases of the miner there was a definitely adjustment. If you set the intensity to 21, it actually had a reciprocation to your hash power. On the latest one it isn't. I just need to put something heavy on it.
Oh, it's not heavy. I thought it was heavy.
No, but this is. Sure.
That's aesthetic. That's a great shot you got there, Carter.
What happened?
Big drill in the middle of the screen.
Is it?
That's pretty. You have such the artistic eye.
I am. It's great when your wife trolls you. Getting devices ready. You know the drill. Dun, dun, dun. This thing's using 135 watts of power just trying to load drivers. You're lucky guy and has a handy wife.
Autistic eye instead of artistic.
Yeah.
That's totally it.
So while we're waiting for this, let's open more stuff up. What is this? So we're waiting for the 1070s to load up the OS. I was doing some shopping. We like shopping. Why am I doing this high?
Because you like to have the table high.
I do. Let's bring it down. Bring it down further. It's like the Austin Powers thing. We're just like, wait for it. Alright, so we got. I am so mad that that cage isn't the right cage for that camera, because I was going to set all this stuff up. On that cage. So Miss BBT is going to have a channel on Twitch called Miss BBT. So you guys can follow her on there. She's going to be doing a lot of cooking stuff. So if you guys, I'm going to make a safe assumption that I think most of my audience is probably male, which means you probably have a wife that probably wears you out about all the mining equipment. And if you are a lady that follows us, then awesome, because you're miners and you're into the whole crypto scene. That's amazing. What is this? Do not cut whatever it is. What is this? What is it?
It's in the box.
It's in the box, is right. I cut myself with that. What? Wow, this thing was no joke. So this is the new LED lights that I got. This came like fancy. That's the diffuser. Man, this thing is taking forever to load up these drivers. Ooh, pretty. So there is a reason why it's that color. That is for Miss BBT. I'm building her a rig setup for her live stream stuff. And they're going to have the cool light bar colors. This one actually has the power cord. I had got another one earlier that did not. And all the rig material to put it together. And it's got all the settings to control the lighting on the back, which is pretty cool. Just improving the studio, folks. This thing a hard reboot here in a second. It's taking so long. Alright, so we should have 2 of those lights. Then power strip. we're going to mount to her rigging setup. There's a whole bunch of USBs and stuff. That's kind of cool. Might have to do a live stream of this build that I'm going to do with this.
You should.
This is a 4K camera rig setup that hooks to the camera, because the camera we bought, the Sony camera we bought, does not have a display. So this is the S7 4K display. Destined view. And the big thing about this one is one, it's got this really nice kind of feel to it. It's got like a rubber grip feel to it. It actually displays the display settings of the camera. A lot of these displays just go on the output of the camera, on these cameras, but you don't get all the actual lighting and all the information. So this actually channels the information from the camera to the display. And it's got HDMI cables and connectors and all the other stuff in there. So that's cool. What is up with this? This thing's setting at 7%. I'm going to give this a, because I'm just being lazy, quick reboot and see if we can jog it past its current setting.
Mr. Attention Deficit.
What's that?
You can't wait.
I ain't got no time. No, ain't nobody got no time for that. So we'll HDMI cable. We got a couple of the cam links. So these are from Elgato, and what these do is they allow you to kind of go through. I'm going to move this. They let you go through your camera out straight in through USB into your PC. So that's what these little cam links are for. So you can have other cameras like normal, like point and shoot or whatever. See, I did that and it went up to 50%, so I'm glad I rebooted it. A couple of those, because she's going to have like a 3 to 4 setup. And these are extension cables for USBs. So these are powered, like 33-foot USB extensions. For those, are for other mini cams. What else we got in here? Ooh. Sony lens. These things are not cheap. So this is the 30 by 3.5 macro. This is a macro lens. So this is going to allow us to do now with the new camera setup, which is the 6500 A6500 camera, which is going to have the cage and the rail and all the connectors with it. We're going to be able to switch this lens out with the macro lens and get the real high fidelity close-ups of the equipment. And for her case, the food stuff that we're going to do on Twitch with her. And then that is just a USB extension, another USB. So this is just an extension, and then I have 33 footers. So, and then that box can go over with the rest of this mess. 50%. Device is ready. Woo, almost flipped this lens out of this box. These lenses are not cheap. So that is the mini lens for the macro. That's the E series mount for that. Okay. Oh, 83%. It's almost there, folks. You can't unless it's powered. The 33-foot USB is powered. So this guy's got a separate power connector, and we can power that, and that's the little USB box here. That's to power that USB connection for the distances that we want. Mainly because we're going to run it up and over things and get it set up in a kitchen area. So there is the non-macro lens. And there's the macro lens. See that little like a silver kind of look to it. For the close-ups, this lens is about $1,500 or $1,300, and this lens is about $300 or $400, $500, something like that. Lenses are expensive. That's the glass, as they call it. The expensive part of those cameras. Okay, we're up. Let's 1080s. Took a little bit of time. It was a fresh build, so it had to go out there and install the cards and stuff. So let's see if it did its job. Looks like it did. We should have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it 6? Yeah, 6. Yeah. Okay, now you're schooling me in that. Alright, let's get this to display settings. And let's give this a run. Is that running instantly 20? Why is it running in 20? Edits. It chose to go to 20 versus 19. And this has got a G4400 CPU in it, 4 gigs of memory. That's part of the reason why it took so long. And
Laura Legends is in the YouTube chat.
Lauren Legends is? I just followed her.
Laura Legends, yep. Just watched her stuff.
She gave us a shout out. So there's so this is 5 of the 1080s running on it right now. We're gonna let it get through this piece, and then we should see it slow down, and then we're gonna get an actual indicator of what is going on with it. 183 wattage right now with power limit set to standard non adjusted setting. So it's power limit of 100 right now. We're averaging right around 11 mega hash on it, so it's really close right now to the 1070 hash for hash, because we saw the 1070 running about the same settings right here at 1108 mega hash to 10.9. So right now the 1080 and the 1070 are created equal, at least on this algorithm that's running right now. Now we know that it goes through 16 algorithms, and there is a good chance that when we're going to get to certain algorithms, the 1080 is going to perform better on it, because it is has more compute units. So right now we're looking about the same. We're going to let this run for a second. You can hear it spinning up here. It's spinning some of the cards up. Actually, I think we might have had a hard crash. We're setting right at about 290 watts, and it's stopped. And it has not crashed, but it's about to. froze the mouse. We should get a blue screen here in a second. And this could be, we just set up this, yeah, it's starting to throttle out. We're going to do a restart here in a second. Since we just freshly booted this up and added these cards. Let's see if we can end this. This actual miner has crashed. It just hasn't displayed that it has. I'm going to bring this back up. We're going to reboot this real quick. It was actually doing some Windows updates on this while I was running this, so we'll let it catch in the mouth. Oh, it's because this is in there. Let's give this a... Yeah, it started to fall.
Watching the video of it going down slowly over the edge. It's like that show on The Price is Right, where the little mountaineer goes up and you just see him falling and there's nothing you can do to make him stop.
Mm-hmm. What's going on? Well, so let's give this a reboot. We're going to try one more time. Now, I'm also going to check to see. I might have had some actual settings in there. I think that hard drive actually had, or that one that I pulled had a power limit set, and it's probably what our problem was. Windows updates while building your... Yuck. Yeah, that's what it is. So I just transfer that hard drive over from one rig to another, because this usually runs Linux, so it wasn't really set up. And I was going to do this with just a few cards, guys. I wasn't going to do this with all of them, but I figured while we had them, might as well try it. Let's bring this back up. Let's go to this. They actually reset the display settings because I definitely had this set. And it's got the old G4400 in there, so we're really rocking speed-wise here. Not. Let's do. Actually, this is a fresh build. This shouldn't have any. This doesn't even have any of the advanced tools on here, like GPU-Z or Afterburner. Let's go ahead and put Afterburner on there. We can look at the settings. If I wear my BBT shirt into Memory Express, they make me kneel and then double tap the back head. Nice. You know, it's pretty funny. I've actually worn my BBT shirt a few different places, and it's funny that people have actually, I mean, if anybody has looked at mining, I mean, my channel's not that big. I mean, we only have, like, I don't have a ton of subscribers, but I think what it is I think my subscribers are, my subscriber count is not indicative of how many people have seen me. And I know that, I mean, obviously the views are an indication of that, but I mean, we went to places. There's a lot of people that have came up that I've been very surprised that, you know, they see the logo and they don't know what it is. They're like, I've seen it before. I don't know what it is. And then they see the crypto, and then we usually start talking crypto in some capacity. But I think that, like, if they're searching the space because of the meta that we put into the descriptions of some of the videos and some of the metadata in there for the SEO, it comes up on people's searches, but they don't care about mining or anything, but they just care about crypto. But they catch my video for just even a second, and they're like, yeah, no, this is about mining, I don't want to listen to it. But yeah, some people are like, I've seen you before, and I'm like, oh, are you a miner? And they're like, no, I'm like 20. And I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. You know, I mean, like, are you, you know, into like mining cryptocurrencies? Yeah, so yeah, there was no settings on this. And they're like, no, I was looking into crypto, and that's probably where I've seen you with the BBT logo. Alright, let's try this again. Now we can see and monitor. Well, this time it fired right up really quick. before it kind of hesitated. We're going to check the settings. This is running on a 1500 AX power supply.
They called it a backwoods keyboard.
A backwoods keyboard? I like my keyboard. It matches the board. I mean, it's actual bamboo. It's nice. It wasn't that expensive. All right, so we're running right at 1050 watts. So we are using less, or we're using more power right now in this initial sets of algorithms on the 1080s than we were using on the 1070s. So that's a fact.
Until the switch screen has cut off.
My head's cut off.
Yeah, it's like right at eye level.
What is? You're not scrolled all the way up. Haha. Dark.
Somebody else said it too. It wasn't just me.
They're not scrolled all the way up.
Oh, I think they want to see your computer screen.
My computer. Oh yeah. They don't want to see me, of course. They want to see this. Yeah. So right now it's running about 48. We're running 1100 watts of power. So power-wise on the 1080s. Almost 1200 watts on that many cards. So I mean we're running quite a bit. 7.4. This is a lower intensity. So we're going from about 9 mega hash down to 7 per card. On these ones, these were running about 6.5 on this algorithm. The one that this just passed through right here, it was running about 6.5 on the 1070. So that's giving you about 1 more mega hash on that algorithm, and we're getting close to 9 here. We're using 205 watts right now. And let's see. Now the 1080s, as you know, do not like power limits being adjusted, but let's go ahead and muddy the waters. Oh, what the hell's going on here? Okay, let's see. 70%. Unlink. Bring that over. .71 Celsius I do not like. Let's set these up to 80% for right now. Usually I have external fans on them, that's why they're dusty. And I just dropped the wattage on them. Let's see if it affects the algorithm. And I want to read out from the algorithm. I want to read out from this miner. We did just drop it by half. We went from 10.5 to 5 mega hash. Let's see if it sustains that. I think we're starving the cards right now. 116 watts we just dropped it from. We dropped it by half. That should be indicative of this. Which it is 670, 690. But we're only getting, we're not getting the same, we're not getting near the same hash rate. Correct. We only do have 5 versus the 6. Technically, that's running. I can put the 6th one in there.
Simple mining does not work with Ravencoin.
Does what?
Simple mining does not work with Ravencoin.
Simple mining does not yet because they do not have the CC miner with the x16r algorithm in it.
So you run this from a bat file?
You can run it. Yeah, you run it from the bat file that comes with that download of the Ravencoin stuff. You can also use it with. You can use it with the Awesome Miner. Also, there is a somebody did a video preview of it on how to set it up with Awesome Miner. If you add that to our list, I'll add it to
What am I reading?
the Awesome Miner preview. One of the fellow YouTubers did it. I'm going to add in the sixth card here. I brought this card over to actually do this test with it, but we just are doing the whole rig. So let's go ahead and, well, we're up to 12 mega hash here on this one and still using only 850 watts. So I just don't think it's going to be stable over the long period, because I've tried to do this with the reduction of power, and we were using up part of the CPU there because it was maxed out. I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to put this other card in. We're going to put the sixth card in. Huh? Oh, Lord.
This time.
Mm-hmm. Put this card in.
Three-eyed pool for Ravencoin.
Three-eyed pools, it's been fine. I think some people said that they were having some problems with payouts with it. It might have got fixed. I've just been using Supernova. I've done it since the start, and I've just left it there. I will test other people's pools here probably after the next week. I'm actually going out of town this next week for the week. I will be back on Friday. That's why I'm going to try to obviously do the stream tonight. We'll have a stream hopefully tomorrow. And anybody that follows us on YouTube, if you need to go out to Twitch, because the last couple days I've been twitching before this live stream. Like, we were live for 2 hours. I was setting up, I was talking and engaging. You guys need to follow us on Twitch. I'm going to start just doing that. No preset kind of stuff. We're just going to be, as I'm building and configuring things, I'm just going to go live on Twitch, stay up for a couple hours, just talk through it, and then we'll do more dedicated stuff here with the mining, with this stuff. I'm going to actually set up I want some something cool in these. I'm just going to put this fan over here on there, on low, just because that way I don't have to max out the fan speed on these, because they're kind of packed in kind of tight. Just going to set this fan here and give these things some proper external cooling, because I cool these cards externally when they're in their appropriate spots.
What are your thoughts on the upcoming BTC private fork?
I don't really follow it. But that's the ZLC fork of it. I mean, I saw ZLC went through the roof from people buying the pre on that. I think airdrops and all that kind of stuff is just kind of pump and dumpy to me. I like fresh start. I like those classified cars. I like them too. They're solidly built. They're cool lighting on them. Might have not liked having the, got to set that other card up.
said you should do an episode on replacing fans on cards.
I have a couple that I need to, so yeah, it might be a bonus round. I got one that I have to replace a fan on. It's got to set up this other card. There we go. See if it actually configured it. There, it's going through and configuring it now. We gotta wait for that VGA controller to figure its life out. Just Shane says he got the 1080 for the win hybrid. The thing's a beast, running 600 souls. Yeah, they're pretty good. The hybrid cards kind of scare me though because of the fact of that pump is always running really hard, and if once that pump goes out, you're kind of SOL. You got to send it in for service.
Did you ever get 13 cards up on the BTC board? Or B250 board, sorry.
Yeah, we get 13 cards all the time on B250s.
What about 13 videos? Yeah?
Yeah, you can do 13 NVIDIAs on a B250. No problem. I had 13 1080 Ti's on a B250. Sounds like a Super 8 projector. That's my external fan over here. It's laying on it, so it's making a. It sounds like a projector. It's gonna slide off if you get too high. It's gonna go right off it. That's fine. Yeah, it was actually perfect. Wasn't making any noise. It's gonna fall. It's gonna fall off this way. It's fine. It was fine. You can't put pressure on the.
Stop it. I got it.
I don't challenge Mama Bear. If it falls, I'm gonna laugh because it's there it goes. It's moving, so it's gonna fall. It needs to have. It's hilarious.
Stop it.
Hold on to it because I don't have it. It looks like it's gonna hold. They'll touch
Still
it.
making a sound though.
Who cares?
Stop.
Who cares? Who cares?
I care.
It's driving her nuts, guys. And that's the extent of a Miss BBT fight.
Stop.
There we go. All right. Well, let's let this CPU cool down for a second because it's still obviously processing something. Supernova hasn't found a Raven block in 30 minutes. Ugh.
You ever done a full 19 cards in video?
Yeah, because I've done 11. I did 11 1060s and 8 of the P106s. And those are all technically in video. All right, folks, let's see. 6 cards, 1080s. $80 mega hash. And I think we just crashed because it just went boom. Yep.
Would you run 19 cards in a B250?
Yeah, we ran 21 cards on it.
On the B250.
Yeah, that was the one that we did the world record with. I gotta hard to reboot this. So we may have to set the manual intensity to 19 on this because the 20 is crashing it. So we're gonna hard reboot it again. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put an I space 19 because right now it's auto selecting to go to 20 intensity, where the 1070s were automatically going to 19 intensity. And when it's finishing that first cycle and those first few algorithms, it's hard crashing the actual. If I let it sit there, it would actually blue screen the machine. I've seen it a whole bunch of times. BBT be DDoS. Restart because of the drivers. Yeah, I mean, I just did a fresh install of that driver too. It could be hard locking because the driver's not done committing itself. Needs a reboot, but I'm going to set it to make sure that it's in the same intensity level anyways as the other. We're going to do I. Damn it. 19. Oh, I'm missing a GPU. Stop this.
You still have to have the P106s on there though, right?
You have to have the P106s to exceed past 13. Oh, it didn't set up that GPU again. The hell?
Says once he unplugged his screen, his monitor, he got better hash rate.
No, it's a false positive, bro. It's you're gonna get different hash rates when depending what algorithm it's on. But why is it crashing? No DDU? We might have to do a DDU. I mean, it's not like in, I don't know why it had it loaded, and now that I rebooted it, it went back to it not being identified. Means that something didn't take on that, and we may have to do a DDU and redo it. Mining is so unprofitable right now, and another week like this, I might as well pull the plug. So this is the time that mining is relative. So like you're going to have a descending amount that you're going to get as more people do it because the difficulty is switches. And if you're doing it purely for the current price, most of the time you're going to be depressed, unless there's a huge upswing in the pricing. It's all about acquiring as much as you can because you just let the mining rigs run. And if you're running at a deficit, it's like an investment at that point, right? I mean, where you're paying into it and you're not on the hopes that it'll have a return. But as you've let it go over a period of time, even when it's not super profitable, you're acquiring coin. And then when the coin swings up in price, then that's when you catch, okay, when I was mining, I was actually mining at a loss at the point in time, but it actually ended up being a beneficial in the end. I mean, that's the point of it. But, I mean, it also comes down to that if it doesn't make financial sense for you to continue to do it because you were selling the coin as you were getting it to try to pay off your rig, then, yeah, you're in a catch-22. Raven is not on an exchange yet. People were complaining in 2016 about getting those. Yeah, that was a thing. I'm going to reboot this now that it found that GPU again, and just to see if it holds it. Let's go through. Restart. I could get more coin with paying over fiat versus the power. Technically you could, but then that's making a decision to buy the currency directly versus mining. And when you first built a mining rig, you were doing that math problem in your head of you were using it as a hedge, and that's why people usually mine. If they're doing it for the money side of it, they're doing it because of a hedge. So you could liquidate your equipment and then purchase the coin too. But it's about that incremental burn and not having a huge asset depreciation, because mining cards are still, our cards in general are still pulling a pretty penny, even with a decrease in mining profitability right now. So you could totally do it either way. But right now mining is profitable. It's just not as profitable as it was. Alright, everything's seen. Let's see if we have an issue. And I'm still forcing it to go 19. There we go, 6 threads. Oh, boom, look at that. Yeah, we're probably going to have to do a DDU here. Immediate crash. Immediate death. We're going to go ahead and pull all the drivers. Can you do a BIOS setup for the B250? Yes, write that down. Everybody's asked me that, and I haven't done one yet. Miss BBT. B250 mining expert walkthrough, like a quick 3-minute video on how to do it with all the latest settings. We're going to download the device driver uninstaller. I saw that you were on live and say thanks for your videos. Configure simple miner. Already had the details needed to get it working correctly. OG Sapman. What is it? Snapty. 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 Alright, buddy. Thank you. We appreciate those. We actually... all the proceeds that you guys have ever donated has went back into this channel. We do not... We put it back in by making sure that we have the right equipment to give you guys the best quality for this content that we can from a live stream standpoint. So, oh my god, this is AIDS. Let's see here. I get that they have to do this for their... There we go.
You're saying you should use port 6667 if you're not, because the CPU difficulty port is 6666 on Supernova, and that might be causing your crash.
But did they change it on Supernova? Yep, they did. That's not causing my crash, but that's why I'm getting all that spam in the beginning, because it's just blasting through it, because it's at a very low difficult. And this should be... Oh, you know what the problem is too? The drivers that this is running on is from the 750 Ti. And I never went down and downloaded. I think there's a different set of drivers for this. $30.77. No, it's the same. It was a fair bet. All right, so DDU. Oops, I don't want to run this yet. I want to restart with holding the shift. Restart. Ah, didn't catch the... I didn't catch the menu. I let go too early.
Don't ever let go, Jack. Don't ever let go.
Yeah, the pull port runs 666 for, and then the pull figures it out and retargets it. Yeah. There we go. Continue. Oh, damn it. I need to go into... Did it again! Yeah, the virtual memory's not set, but I don't think it matters in this, but it could have... Let's see here. We'll try one thing before we go and uninstall. Because when he said the virtual memory, it did make me think of something. Because I think one of those algorithms are pretty heavy on the memory intensity. That's performance. We're going to go to start settings, restart.
Does the Vega FE have the same crashing issues on mining like with Ethereum, or is it only doing Monero?
What was it?
The Vega FE?
Yeah, the Founders Edition.
Yeah. Do they have crashing issues?
It's no different than the others.
Depending on coin, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. None that I've had any issues with it.
Do you have any Founders Edition?
Not anymore. Alright, we're going to do a clean and restart. This is doing a DDU on safe mode. And then we'll do a fresh install and then we'll test it. This will be the last one I think we'll do. And wrap this one up since this went long. And if somebody does a does some timestamps, we'll hook them up with some crypto. Leave your Ravencoin address this round. If you do the
Frontier Edition.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Frontier Edition is their first one.
So he hasn't seen many people mining them.
Because there wasn't a lot out there. Yeah, somebody does the timestamps on this, so I'll hook you up with some Raven. I had a few people do, or I think one person was doing the last few videos hooked up with a Ethereum Classic, which was a pretty good effort for timestamps for 42 bucks when it got at its peak. I think he did 2 videos for that. You know what? I think it unzipped already. Come on. It's got to register it. And it's not. Sometimes when it doesn't launch that, it looks like it's corrupt. You just have to relaunch this. Do you set the processor scheduling programs to do background services and persistent performance options in the Windows tabs? No, we don't set it up for that. The performance options I do from the power settings. If you go into power settings, I do set the performance options there. Edit power plan. Typically I'll do that. Right now the PC is getting just crushed. That's why it's not letting me. That's why these windows are lagging here. It's part of the reason why most of the time I do builds. This one I didn't for some reason. I think it was just the GP. I have the G4400 in here, and it's just epically slow compared to the i3. I come in here and set this to high performance. Oh, you're talking the other thing. Back here to background services. I've never changed that. I haven't seen an impact on it. It's fine if you're doing like Windows updates and stuff. Because all that's doing is changing the performance level back here whenever it's doing stuff to. I just noticed this doesn't have a 1709 update. But when it's doing some of these, when you're sitting there wondering what the hell your PC is doing, and it's doing like Windows updates, and you're watching, you know, what's it writing to, and then you're watching it do like prefetch cat. It's organization of its Windows resources and stuff. It's running these processes in the back, prioritizes the priority of the CPU to those. Let this install, we'll finish this up, we'll wrap this up. It should be about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Pretty decent stream. Earn yourself some Raven by doing the doing some testing with, or doing the timestamps for us tonight. again, if you guys are not following us on Twitch, you really should go over to Twitch, follow us on there. That way you get the notification when we go live, because I'm going to be doing a lot of just, when I'm going through and configuring these, I'm actually going to be tearing some of these rigs down. I'm going to be cleaning them and going through some setting updates. I'm going to recheck some BIOSes on them, and all that kind of stuff is all going to be done on Twitch. So I'll be doing those over the next few days. And I'll be just doing a lot of streaming on Twitch on some of that, the intermediary stuff that I do when I'm out here working on building other stuff and I'm not doing a live stream on YouTube. So I'll be just doing live streams to Twitch for that kind of stuff. And once, you know, like something like AMD driver or the AMD miner becomes available on Raven and stuff, when I start doing all the field testing for that stuff, I'll be doing that on Twitch. So you guys want to follow us on there. I see 205 people on here. If you don't have a Twitch account, you can go get it for free. Follow us on Twitch. Yeah, there's no AMDs yet. Yeah, there is the Bitcoin Talk post. It's just, I mean, it's not about a ton of hope over Raven. I think it's got a good community behind it, and I think the price will reciprocate that. Once it gets onto an exchange and people, the larger masses, can just purchase it. Again, it has 21 billion as the total amount of coins, but that's going to be mined just like in the fashion of Bitcoin. It's going to have its halving and all that kind of stuff too. We're to go to 2,500, and then it'll go to 1,250. Over a schedule just like Bitcoin, so it will do its halving on its distribution model. So this is the time right now where you can get 5,000 blocks. You know, so this is like the early days of Bitcoin type of thing. So I like that kind of start with it. So who knows? So thing's taking a sweet time loading. Does the kilowatt work on the 30 amp 240? No. I know from experience. It will give you a light show for a few seconds. You need an like an arc, one of the crimp testers that you can wrap a wire around. So is dual mining dead? Yes. Dual mining's dead. As of right now, it is. All the dual mining coins can be mined with ASICs. Finally finishing up here. Let's do a restart. Come back to this. So we're going to do this, let it test for a little bit, and then we'll wrap this one up. So tomorrow's stream, I was thinking about doing kind of a whiteboard session. I haven't done it in a while. And kind of going through some of the what I'm seeing in the next few months from a tech distribution of dApps, things that are coming out. It kind of gives some weight to some of the activity that the industry in general is putting into Ethereum, EOS, some of the other platform-based coins, and then give you guys some. I get asked this question a lot, especially when I'm out. That has not much to do with mining, but the mining supports the network that these things are on, but what some of the actual use cases that are being worked on across the industry, and then what does that mean to you? What's the so what factor? So if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, it's not going to be necessarily mining related, but I'm looking at doing that one tomorrow, and we'll go through a whiteboard session, and I'll put my solution architect hat on, and I'll start to walk you guys through kind of what those models look like, what people are kind of building, what's the so what factor on, you know, some of the blockchain distributed ledger stuff, and kind of give you guys an aspect from that side of the fence. And why it matters to folks that mine is because eventually our architecture, our hardware will be a part of that distributed compute side of it. So you'll see where our huge competitive advantage of having hardware is going to be teed up essentially for these new enhancements to these types of networks. So if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, I say tune into that one, and my target for that one's tomorrow. We'll do a live stream for that. It'll be a whiteboard style session where I'll sit there and kind of walk you guys through a whiteboard. Let's get this over. I got to fix my my Stream Deck. It's all out of whack. Like that one says close up, but I know that's the CPU input, and my main camera is the laptop. It's like all messed up. So all my buttons got shifted around when I updated the software, and it seems to be the common story with Elgato. Let's make sure that this got all set up. It's a pretty long process on a DDU. Jeff Chow, like a boss, coming in with a 10 spot towards the end. Thank you, sir. We will be using that for enhancing the equipment here. All right, we got them all here. Everything's set right. 19 intensity. Whoa, what's this? Business Mange coming in with a 50 spot at the end, towards the end. You guys are rolling in. That's no problem, man. That's what we're here to do. I try to bring you guys not just content for the, you know, cryptocurrency in general on the mining scene, but it helps people understand where all of this effort, we are holding up platforms essentially on all this stuff. And this thing's starting to mine. We'll come back to that. You know, these things, we're holding up a platform, and that platform at the end of the day has to eventually be used for something. So the efforts that these folks are putting in, the dApps and putting in the technology behind it, help give strength to the currencies that are supported there. So I mean, the basic use case is that we can sit there and exchange these currencies, but you know, on the platform coins, the Ethereums, the EOSs of the world, the Ubics of the world, those kind of things are platforms, and they have other intentions. So, you know, us holding up that platform should be getting. I think we might have froze up here, so we're definitely having some issues with the 1080s. And I had this issue with some 1080 Ti's, and I had to switch up. I had to split them to do 3 and 3. And it could be also the processor I have. So I'm going to try one more thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split these in 3 and 3. We're paying your overtime. That's right. We're at 2:15. I want to try to finish this one out. I want to show you guys, because I don't want to leave you guys on a hook with this one not working, because you might have a 1080 rig, and I'm going to show you how I got a couple of the other rigs to work with this when I was having this kind of freeze up issue like this. And this is where I'm saying that it's not super predicated. This is the kind of activity that you'll get on Raven sometimes when you try to overclock your GPUs. So I'm seeing this. These things come factory overclocked. These are the classified. These are the top tier in the GTX 1080s, at least from EVGA. And it might be just an incompatible setting with some of the GPU speed here. So what we're going to do is we're going to step this down, or it's the G4400. because I have seen it not being able to keep up. The i3s and the i5s seem to be best with this, but what we're going to do here is we're going to make a copy of it. We're going to edit this. We're going to keep it at 19 intensity. We're going to do a D, and then we're going to go O, 1, 2. We're going to save that, and then we're going to make a copy of it. Not a shortcut. Delete. Where's the delete? I can't see on this keyboard. This keyboard's different. Copy here. We're going to call this the other 3x.
Your keyboard's pretty universal.
No, because the delete's down here, because it's usually up here. And it's etched. All these are like laser etched, so you can't really see them from a certain angle. And if we go to 3, 4, and 5, I don't think the power was the power. Did I have the power limit still set at 70? You might be right. Oh, zoom in. Somebody's asking for the stuff here. So I went in here with the D, and then on the second one it's 3, 4, and 5. We got the 19 intensity set. Let's check and make sure that we don't have the power limit set to... No, power limit's still set to 100. I left it because we redid a DDU, which would have reset all these settings. We're leaving it pure stock. The first one has... not that one. That's for 3-eyed. This one is 0, 1, and 2. Yeah, 0, 1, 2. So let's try this one first. Using the 3. Let's try this one using the other 3. And that's going to give me a bind error there because the port for the reporting. But let's see if this runs. So it's getting 40 apiece. That's the 82 mega hash right now, 13.98. And let's see if this is stable. We're going to let this run for a second. And if it is, this is your option. And now, again, I had to do this with a 12-card mining GPU rig where I had to go 6 and 6 on the 1060s. So on the 1080s here, I got it split right now into 2 different batch files running 3 cards apiece. And let's see if it actually locks up. It wasn't taking it long to lock up, so... try to get this over here. When I first heard of Ravencoin, I figured it was GOT and fan anyway. Yeah, fan related. They could have totally fun. The problem with using like an existing like GOT or something like that is technically if it got a lot of critical mass behind it, they would just get sued for, you know, banking on the name.
And now they've made the connection, and now it's over.
Yeah. Well, the name's not just going to get them there. So power-wise, we're using about 12, 11. Let's see when it gets into a more intense coin.
So what is Ravencoin offering that Vertcoin isn't?
Nothing. There's no difference. They're both about the same utility. It's just a different currency. Vertcoin kind of started the same way, where I think it started with no pre-mine. Same kind of cost, but Vertcoin is like what, $3 to $5? It's as high as 10.
What's the PSU on this?
The PSU on this is a AX, and I think we still had a hard crash here. It might be just the CPU because it's totally lagged out. Did it jump to 1500 watts?
Back to 1.6.
Yeah, so we peaked out the GPUs. I think what's going on here. 15.7 watts. Did it peak to 1570? I didn't see it. Was it
Thorn says I buy a GOT coin using Kodiak coin.
Yeah. Yeah, if it peaked up to 1570, then we just probably spiked that PSU. That's an AX 1500, and they are not like they're platinum based power supply. It's Corsair, but I have not had a lot of luck when you really push those power supplies up over their specs. So I'm gonna reset the power limit, and we're gonna try it one more last time, and see if we can starve it and just take a hit on.
We're blaming Ravencoin for bumping the power up.
Well, yeah, it's the let's do a 75 power limit on this.
So I know I missed some in the beginning, but we've had over 18 new followers on Twitch, which is pretty cool.
18. We got 181 people in here. Come on, people. I know you can do it. We might have had an insta crash on this reboot. Yeah, it instant froze and instant crashed. I'm gonna reboot it one more time, and I'm gonna drop the intensity down to 17.
So for our affiliate on Twitch, we're stuck on the tax form. I'm going to think, since they're a U.S.-based company, that we're not going to get that reviewed until business hours.
Oh yeah, probably. It's no big deal. I'm gonna try it one more time, folks.
What miner are you using?
It's the 225 x16r. It's the CC miner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this at 100, but I'm going to change the intensity. To 17, and I'll take a less of an intense.
What time do you think you'll go live tomorrow?
I'm going to try to go early on Twitch. I'll go early, probably 5 or 6.
YouTube, 8 or 9?
YouTube, yeah, probably maybe 8. So that's launched, and it's a pretty significant hit. But I mean, if it's stable, it's stable. So we're at 17 intensity. So all it is in there, and what I would do is incremental this. So this is kind of, you guys are getting to see kind of the incremental process that I would do here is I drop, instead of dropping the power limit, because I'm telling you, a lot of the testing I've done with these, and I was doing it with different 1080s. I was doing a Founders Edition 1080s. When I would play with the power limits or any of the clocks at all, it made it super unstable. But dropping the intensity seems to work, and we're going to let this run for a second and see if it's good. Jekyll, your Stratum authentication, you need to add a worker if you're using a Supernova. Don't get sad about the market cap. There's a lot of just BS out there. You can see that it's getting a bad result on Shabbles. Shabbles, the algorithm, the SHA BA8 BA1, BL. So this is getting right now about 60 versus getting 79 mega hash. It's getting about 60. So I mean, you're taking about a full card hit, a little over a full card hit by dropping it to 17. But what power usage are we at? And here, there's right there. So I'm betting a lot of it was the power.
Why don't you take that extra card out that you just put back in?
Well, no, I'm gonna leave it in there. Unless it just that just was, huh?
Kilowatt.
Yeah, I just rebooted. Yeah, so even at 17 intensity, now it just did me a courtesy for rebooting it for me. But we're still running 1300 watts, so it's going to be one of those things that you got to monitor it. And I'll actually drop it down to 16 intensity and see if that fixes it. What I'm going to try to do is try not to make it work that hard. I know when I was running this with this rig was doing Zcash, it was right there at about 1200 watts on that 1500. So this is, I'm actually pushing that GPU harder than what normally I do. I'll take this to 90. Again, the 1070 rig runs fine. It was running fine. The 1080 Ti rigs that I have had to have some adjustments. This 1070 one's being a pain. The joys of mining. And that died immediately. Did not like that. Again, I'm betting it's this memory. It does not like having the power adjusted. It's a finicky set of settings. All right, guys, we're gonna get close to wrapping this one up. I'm gonna try one more last restart with just leaving the power levels at where they're at 16 hash. And then I'll be playing with this one later tonight and into tomorrow. Actually, not later tonight, but tomorrow. And then I'll go live as I'm going through that testing. Because usually when I get off these, when we've been on for a while, you guys don't see how I fix it. And that's what the Twitch will be for tomorrow. So if you guys are 178 of you are here watching, go out to Twitch, follow us, so that way you see that notification. If you have time tomorrow, you can bring it up on your phone, whatever, and watch the kind of the more dedicated breakdown of this, because I'm actually going to pull these cards out, clean all the stuff like I did the other machine at the start of the Twitch feed earlier today, and then check the risers. I mean, I could have something stupid in here to where like a riser's not on all the way right, and every time I put a load on it, it just wants to die. Who's up?
Lucy May is the signal from here. She's playing Player Unknown Battleground. The body painter, her husband's doing a behind the scenes prep thing. There's a piano guy playing. A lot of my novels are on.
Yeah, 16's not gonna be That's about a 50% hit right now. Because part of my testing too will be putting like an i3 in this and seeing the effects. It's running about 800 watts right now at 16 intensity. And this is more of just a test, and this one looks like it's so far being pretty stable. So we'll just let this one run. I'll take a Twitter feed of it later of if it's stable. Yeah, I'm just looking at the settings here because I see one of these cards don't even have the fans on. Oh, yep, it's on now. It just wasn't at 16 intensity. It just wasn't working. I mean, it's only using 70 watts. Ah, it's using 140. So 16 intensity looks like it's stable with the power limit not being touched. So this would be one of those things where I'm just going to have to play with it and see if it's just using too much juice. For 6 of them, the 5 were working fine. I'll try it with just 5 with the 1500 watt, but this algorithm uses a lot of power. But it spikes the power. So we're at 2 hours 33 minutes. Be sure, if you haven't, go out there, follow us on Twitch, and you will see some of the live streams that we'll be doing, the pre-live streams, not the episode stop. And if you have time and you can do the timestamps, leave your Raven address on there. And just see how the last few videos timestamps have been done, and try to hit those main points. And we thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully this gave you some exposure to Raven and the NVIDIA, and then how to troubleshoot, because right now it hasn't rebooted yet. Still, it looks like the 16 intensity is working on these cards with the power supply situation we got right now. Again, and we're not doing a heavy load. 500 watts right now. We're still getting a lot of hash for 500 watts. 600 watts. Right now 600 watts being used, and we're still getting 40 mega hash for 600 watts. So this is going to be one of those things, I think you gotta, over time, we're going to figure out that it's not about giving it the hammer. And it's going to be a conservation of power situation where we're going to lower the intensity and get 75% of the hash rate at half the power cost, right? So, just do your own testing, post under this video, like, subscribe, share, let us know your own testing, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. To whoever. Yep, that's fine. Oh, you're the raid partying on Twitch.